Right. And so what is that called? Yeah. Right. And why do I know?
Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone here as well as those who are online watching through Facebook. This meeting is part of the Saskatchewan Rate Review Panel mandate to solicit public input into the recent SaskEnergy rate application. My name is Albert Johnston. I am the chair of the Saskatchewan Rate Review Panel, and as well we have with us today Delane Barber from Weyburn, who is a member of the panel. The panel is charged with making a recommendation to the provincial government on the fairness of the proposed rate changes put forward by SaskEnergy. This application is unique in that SaskEnergy has asked for an overall rate decrease. The first part of the reduction is in the price of natural gas, which will happen in two stages. The first stage will be effective November 1st of 2018, and a second reduction will occur on April 1st, 2019. As well, they have asked for an increase in the delivery portion of the rate, which will be effective April 1st, 2019. You will have the opportunity to ask questions through the Facebook feed if you're watching that way. For the presentation by SaskEnergy, I will now turn it over to Mr. Ken Fromm from SaskEnergy. He is the President and CEO, and he will introduce the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Al, and members of the Rate Review Panel, welcome, and also to the public. Welcome to our presentation today on the Commodity and Delivery Service Rate Application for 2018. We're going to do a short presentation followed by hopefully some questions and some answers on some of the questions you may have. I want to introduce my team that will be going through the presentation in some detail. I'll introduce them in order of appearance. First is Randy Bregas. Randy is our Vice President of Operations, and he will give some background as to the business affairs of SaskEnergy. Next up is Lori Christie, and Lori is our Vice President of Gas Supply and Rates, and she'll talk about some of the details on our application, in particular on the commodity rates. And following up is Kim Korchinski, who's our Director of Regulatory Affairs with SaskEnergy and TransGas. So I will just now turn over the presentation to Mr. Randy Bregas.
Thanks, Ken. I would like to start off the presentation by giving some context for both for SaskEnergy operations and for our customer base. So this is what we're going to cover through the presentation. We're going to provide some additional background on our gas distribution system in the province. We'll go through what's being included in this rate application, as well as more details on both the commodity rate and the delivery rate. And finally, we'll talk about the impact of the changes on customer bills. We've included here a description of SaskEnergy's customer profile. SaskEnergy defines rate classes by yearly consumption, and we serve 4 classes of customers. This differentiation helps us to allow for fair cost allocation and fair rates for each group of customers. SaskEnergy customers are predominantly residential customers. They make up almost 90% of our customer base, with the remaining 10% being the small and large commercial and small industrial customers. And also at the bottom of the slide, we described that the largest gas consumers in the province are served through TransGas. They're served as TransGas customers, but SaskEnergy does provide gas distribution and pressure regulation service to these customers, and there is a cost allocation back to SaskEnergy for these charges. Next, we've got a bit of a cross-country checkup here of natural gas distribution in Canada. This map depicts the service areas of gas distribution utilities within Canada. Distribution utilities in Canada are members of the Canadian Gas Association, and through this association we work together to the mutual benefit of all companies. It's interesting to note on this map that SaskEnergy has the largest service area of any utility in Canada. So the orange on the map shows SaskEnergy providing service throughout the province. We serve 93% of the communities in Saskatchewan. So a further level of detail showing how SaskEnergy compares with the other large distribution utilities in Canada. We have over 70,000 kilometers of gas mains or gas pipelines, which exceeds any other utility in Canada. However, our customer base is about 395,000 customers, which in this group just puts us ahead of Central Gas Manitoba and Énergir Quebec in terms of number of customers. So together this translates into a customer density for SaskEnergy of 6 customers per kilometer of gas main, which is by far the lowest in Canada. And this certainly has implications of the cost of us providing service to our customers in the province. And with that, I'll turn over to Tori Christian.
Okay, thank you. Before I talk about the application details, I'm just going to talk a bit about the components of the SaskEnergy bill. Shown in green here, the first component is the commodity rate or the gas consumption charge. It represents the commodity that you burn, that you utilize. Within the commodity, there is no profit or margin built into that. We track the difference between what we pay for gas and what we charge customers in what we call a gas cost variance account. And that account is either refunded or collected from customers in future rate applications. And another thing I want to point out about commodity, it's not an exclusive franchise. Gas supply, we do have currently 7 gas retailers operating in the province of Saskatchewan, so you can actually go and purchase your gas from someone other than SaskEnergy. In the blue here, 2/3 of the bill represents delivery service. Delivery service is all the infrastructure and all the people that deliver the natural gas to your home. This is where SaskEnergy earns a return on the dollars invested in the infrastructure. And the delivery service is divided into 2 parts. First, you've got the basic monthly charge, which is the same every month in each customer class. And what it represents, it's intended to represent costs that are the same regardless of how much gas you consume. For example, the service line from the main to your home, or the meter, or even the customer account administration, such as the billing. So regardless of how much gas you use, the cost to provide that portion of service to you is the same. And then the second part of the bill is the delivery charge, and it's based on the volume of natural gas that you consume, and the cost that it represents is really the cost to transport the natural gas from either Alberta when we import natural gas, or from producers in Saskatchewan. It also represents storage. And as well, the distribution infrastructure, such as the mains, the town border stations, and maintenance on the system. So just moving on to the application details. In this rate application, what we're seeking is a commodity rate decrease of 26.5%. We want this decrease, it would be effective. We want to have it in 2 parts. So we're asking for the province support to decrease the commodity rate from $3.65 a gigajoule to $2.95 a gigajoule effective on November 1st, and then a final decrease of $2.65 a gigajoule on April 1st, 2019. Typically, we've never done a ask for a 2-step decline in our commodity rate. The reason for this is our application period that we're filing this application for is actually April 1st of 2019, and applications typically cover a 1-year period. And the period that we're covering is April 2019 to March of 2020. However, with this commodity rate decrease, customers use the most natural gas in the summertime. They use about 70% of their, pardon me, in the winter time. They use about 70% of their annual consumption in the winter. And so if we decrease it on November 1st for the majority of the commodity rate, what that will do is allow the customers to benefit from the lower commodity rate this upcoming winter, yet it still allows the panel adequate time to really do a thorough review of the application and then determine, you know, either if our $2.65 on April 1st of 2019 is appropriate or if it should be something different. So that's the reason why we're asking for a two-step in the commodity rate. The second part of the recommendation is for a modest increase to the delivery service rate. And as I mentioned on the previous slide, there are two parts to delivery service, the basic monthly charge and the volumetric delivery charge. What this application is seeking is an increase to the volumetric delivery charge. When you look at the total bill, when you look at the decrease that we're looking at applying for commodity and the modest increase to delivery, customers will experience an overall bill decrease. For residential customers, the average bill decrease will be 8.8%. The more commodity you consume, the larger bill increase you will have, decrease, pardon me, you will have. Just a little bit more detail about the commodity rate. As I mentioned earlier, it is a pass-through of costs. There's no markup or margin built into the commodity rate. And the reason for the application, the primary driver for the low commodity rate is lower natural gas prices. And within the low natural gas prices, we do have a component of price protection against natural gas prices rising in the future. Just a little bit about this commodity rate, looking historically, this is the lowest commodity in actually almost 20 years. It's our lowest commodity rate. Looking at commodity in general, SaskEnergy buys about 56 million gigajoules of natural gas annually. We buy about equal amounts every day of the year. However, in the summer period, when customers are not consuming as much gas as we purchase, we inject it in the storage. And then winter, we're buying that base load. But when customers need more than we're purchasing, we pull it out of storage. Currently, a good part of the lower natural gas prices is due to natural gas being somewhat trapped in Alberta. Currently, all the pipelines moving natural gas out of Alberta are full, and the NOVA system in Alberta is currently has plans to expand the pipeline system, but at this time, the amount of gas coming out of Alberta is at capacity. So what we're seeing is lower natural gas prices in Alberta. Here in Saskatchewan, our price is based on the Alberta price. Like it's the transparent pricing point where the price of gas in Saskatchewan is priced from. So that's why we look at AECO prices as much as we do. We also import, between 60 and 65% of our natural gas from Alberta. So that's why the AECO price is the key, the key price indicator for natural gas here in Saskatchewan. Looking at our price risk management program, SaskEnergy has been doing quite a bit of hedging in the upcoming years. For this upcoming winter, we do have almost, the majority of our natural gas purchases hedged, and the rest will come out of storage where the price is already fixed. However, looking over at the next 5 years, between hedging most of the winter purchases over the upcoming 5 years, as well as about half of the natural gas that we buy in the summer period, we've also hedged that. And so that works out to about 70% of our purchases over the coming 5 years is hedged at an AECO price of, you know, between $2.25 and $2.35. How that converts to a commodity rate is, just moving over to the next slide, is that we have to then add the cost of getting the natural gas supply from Alberta to Saskatchewan, as well as there's some supply that we buy here in Saskatchewan. Plus, there's we also have pipeline capacity from Alberta that in a normal winter is not used. We have contracted for the past few years incremental transportation from Alberta, just in case it's colder than normal the winter. For example, in the winter of 13-14, when it was that extremely cold winter, we actually ran that transport contract every day of the winter period, and we had enough gas then in the province. So that's why we have that extra transportation. So when we look at, we buy about 61% of our gas in Alberta. And then we've also got that transportation contract that we might use if it's too cold. We have to add the cost of that into our commodity rate. And then we do buy the other 39% of our supply here in the province. And the cost of gas here in Saskatchewan is AECO plus about 65 cents is what we're expecting to pay for this upcoming year. It's substantially higher than it was last year and in previous years. Prior to this year, the price of natural gas in Saskatchewan traded, it was about between 15 cents and 20 cents a gigajoule higher than the AECO price. So of course we would buy as much gas as possible here in Saskatchewan, and then we would import from Alberta at a cost of about 37 cents a gigajoule. But with the pipelines becoming filled to capacity in Alberta, you cannot get any more transport out of Alberta. So what happened with that, with the gas getting what I call backed up in Alberta, it's brought the price of gas in Saskatchewan higher, and it looks like the price of gas in other parts of North America now, whereas previously Saskatchewan gas traded a lot more like the Alberta price. Now it's trading a lot more like natural gas does in other parts of North America. And it's likely going to continue to trade in that pattern until the capacity is brought on, more transport capacity is brought on to bring gas out of Alberta. So just looking at commodity alone, without the impact of the modest delivery rate increase, residential customers, you know, can expect to save about $8.50 per month on their commodity rate, and our commercial and industrial customers will save anywhere from 14 to 20% of their bills with the lower commodity rate. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kim Fortinsky to go into a little bit more detail on the delivery service rate.
Thanks. So, as was mentioned, we are proposing a 3.7% increase to our delivery service rate. And we go through some of the highlights that we think are important to understand for this rate application. So again, that's equating to about $1.76 per month for our average residential customer. And again, effective April 1st. So some of the highlights are infrastructure renewal, and this is driving our capital budget, which we'll get into in a moment here. So major growth infrastructure, risk management, we'll also dive into, and new metering technology with AMI and preparing for that, and lots of opportunities for us to optimize our system and work more effectively and efficiently, and keep our costs down. In terms of safety, our number one priority, safety patrol program, we're seeing large wins here and getting out the message of call before you dig, and we'll get into a little bit of stats around that. Joint locating process, again, being efficiently or operating in the most efficient manner that we can. And then damage prevention, our biggest threat in terms of third-party interference. So for cost of service, we are up to $10 million net of efficiencies over the next year. The driver's slight increase to OM&A in transportation, but what I want to point out here is the increase that we're seeing in capital expenditures. And again, that's around growth and risk management. So with our increase in capital spend that we're seeing, that's directly being attributed to an increase in depreciation, tax, interest, and income. So it's a key area that we're looking into and making sure that our capital spend is prudent and timely. So in terms of infrastructure renewal, major growth infrastructure that I mentioned, around the city of Regina and Saskatoon, we have large distribution assets that transport gas to our subdivisions. They've done the system well and served our customers well over the past 30 or 40 years. Those systems are now reaching to capacity, and the cities are expanding, getting larger. Therefore, we are required to build additional capacity to those outer edges, both in the city of Regina and Saskatoon. A thing that we're very cognizant when we're building these is ensuring that they're built in a safe manner and that they have a less likelihood or a reduced risk in terms of third-party interference. So we put our assets in larger easements. We also try and place our easements in strategic locations next to potential rail lines or large roadways to ensure that those other assets will protect our infrastructure from encroachment. In terms of risk management, we have three main programs that I'll touch on, the service upgrade mains and stations. So our service upgrade program is by far our most advanced program, and it's our most mature, and it accounts for about $20 million of our capital spend. This is around ensuring that the service that's leading up to the house, which is near our customers, is in the best condition and there are no integrity concerns, and try and design and build away from those. In terms of our main replacement program, it would be on the more immature spectrum of our programs. And this right now we're planning to replace about 400 kilometers of main, and that would be a first generation plastic pipe. So that would be plastic pipe that has material attributes that aren't suitable for long life service. So we're looking to replace those assets. For our station upgrade program, there is changing regulatory requirements, so we're always ensuring that we're on the right side of that, as well as making sure that we're in the industry best practice with all of our upgrades that we do to our stations. Again, to ensure that they're safe and reliable, and that they have a longer life expectancy. So these programs are monitored and analyzed in terms of priority to ensure that our capital spend is timed correctly with growth and with the appropriate level of risk. So in terms of public safety and damage prevention, have a little bit of stats that I'd like to show. So we're seeing line hits with escaping gas decrease. So we made a conscious decision back in 2013 to get more public awareness out, and we feel that the best way to do that is a culture change and public awareness to our customers, understanding that any digging practice should be have a subsequent line locate done to ensure that there isn't any underground facilities located in that area. So with getting out to the public, having more awareness, more advertising, and having dedicated safety patrol officers, we have seen a decrease. In terms of our leak rate, we are seeing that relatively flat. However, the story there is actually a win, relatively flat in terms of the number of leaks we're finding. However, the technology to find those leaks is improving. Therefore, the number of leaks that we see are they are a smaller leak type, therefore are less risky. So we're seeing that flat, but more of these leaks are now being found by our leak survey, and rather our customers being able to smell the leak and reporting it to us. The large increase we see here is from a new threat identified, and that was with the Saskatoon services that had curb bells. It was something that we've seen this past winter, and we saw a large increase. Therefore, we deployed more leak survey in the area to ensure that the risks were identified, and we added additional capital to ensure that those leaks were repaired. And we do have a program ramping up that will address this new threat. So for some of the business highlights and some stuff that I've already mentioned, we are seeing an increase in line locating activity. We believe that this is attributed to our increase in public awareness, advertising, and safety patrols. So we feel that this is a good news story. In terms of our number of customers, we are seeing it increase. It is leveling off to a lower level than we've seen in the past 5 years. However, it is still growth that we are projecting to come online. In terms of our meter exchange program, we did ramp up to ensure that our advanced metering infrastructure was able to be installed, and again, that'll provide further analytics that we are able to use to analyze our system and understand where we have growth coming on and be able to spend capital prudently. Our FTE count shown in the last chart there, we do see a large increase here from 17-18 to 18-19, and a lot of that is around FTE or contractor to FTE conversions. You'll see a decrease that trended down from 2014, and now we're running back to about the same levels we were back in 2014. In terms of productivity and efficiencies, we have 4 main areas that we're working towards, and then some capital as well. Cloud collaboration, we are seeing savings here in e-bill and postage. In terms of business process change, again, that contractor to FTE conversions, as well as a reduction in overtime hours. Leveraging technology, so we have implemented a demand work management system, and we are seeing efficiencies there. And then other revenue opportunities, so that's reviewing our LDC service connect fees, so there are increased revenues there. In terms of capital, and we're deferring capital to ensure that it is being spent at the correct time and adhering to our growth requirements and managing risk. And then joint servicing is just one to point out where we have seen significant amount of savings with joint services. So in 18-19, we did see overall operating efficiencies of about $4 million. So to wrap this all up, I guess in terms of the delivery service rate recommendation, again, 3.7% will allow SaskEnergy to meet its regulated ROE of 8.3% over the application period. Information here is just showing the increase for each customer class. The largest is to the residential rate class, but again, that's where most of our spending is occurring in terms of our integrity programs and our risk management and service upgrades. So that's why the larger number is seen there for the residential customers. And we are still, just to point out, in our revenue to cost ratio target of 0.95 to 1.05. In terms of our competitiveness with other major cities, this chart just shows where we fit into the mix. So with our increase, we will be at 558 annually, and that will be would put us into 3rd place after Calgary and Edmonton go through their proposed delivery rate increase, which would be January 1st of 2019. So overall, we still are competitive throughout the major cities in Canada. And just to sum up, I guess, all of the information that we saw today, in one final slide here, the customer bill impact. Again, as mentioned, an overall commodity rate decrease, a large commodity rate decrease with a modest delivery rate increase, with a total bill impact 8.8% for our residential customers. That's decreased 10.8% average, and the story, I guess, would be residential customers would be paying approximately $81 less per year.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Just a couple of points. This video will be available online on our website, which is SaskRateReview.ca. In addition, I believe we have the PowerPoint slides posted there as well, so that you can go back and refer to them. We did get one question from the audience. This is, I'm not sure who wants to answer this, but it says the overall increase, or the overall decrease is 10.8%, yet my bill is only decreasing 8.8%. I think that was explained in a couple of your slides, so that's okay. The only other question, when something like this, I'll paraphrase, it seems like business enterprises are getting the bigger reduction in dollars and percentage. Somebody like just to cover that? I think you have covered a bit, but I think it's worthwhile repeating.
Okay, well, thank you for the question. When the bill is based on commodity and delivery service, so the part of the bill, the part that's going down is the commodity rate, which is volumetric. So essentially, the more natural gas you consume, the larger your bill decrease is going to be, is what it comes down to. Whereas customers, like a residential customer, about half of their bill is delivery, the other half is commodity. If you get into a large commercial customer, the bill is more like only about 10 or 20% delivery, and the other part is commodity. So when you've got a commodity rate decrease, those consumers who consume a lot of natural gas see a larger bill decrease, and the reverse is also true when you have a commodity rate increase. Thanks.
Just as a quick follow-up to that, so if I'm a business customer and I'm using lots of natural gas, so not only is my commodity rate influencing the total bill, but also the reduced volumetric charge?
Yes, also the part would be the volume, the mix between the basic monthly charge and the delivery charge component of delivery service impacts the amount. So that is a smaller portion for large customers than it is for residential customers.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions from the floor here? If not, then that will conclude our meeting and presentation today. Thank you very much for being here and for tuning in.